Small Business Tip Show, episode 17. Welcome to the Small Business Tip Show. This is Frank Thomas and Nancy Bovair. We're glad to have you here with us today. Today we're going to be talking about a very important topic, and that is the importance of networking. So make sure you stay tuned. So Nancy, how are you doing this week?
I'm great, Frank. How are you doing?
Excellent, excellent. It's been a very busy week. We've been actually in launch mode of our new products and, course correcting and feeling things out. And this is where the topic of today's show came from, was the importance of networking.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this.
Yes, absolutely. And we talked a little bit on the last show about the fact that you actually had just recently done a live teaching session. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, I was very fortunate, I believe, to be invited to be part of a strategic alliance with a group here in town called Sunwapta Solutions, and they provide a speaker series. They do seminars for business people, trying to help them expand their businesses, grow their businesses, networking opportunities, things like that. So I was fortunate and was able to present my first talk in the speaker series last Tuesday, and it was great. Loved it.
Excellent. That's excellent. Yeah, and on my side, like I was mentioning, I'm doing this product launch, and it's interesting because we've had lots of course corrections. We came up with an idea of how we would sell the product and the pricing schema and the whole 9 yards, and now we're kind of reevaluating things because we're not seeing as much sales as we'd like to see. We're at a place where we purposefully launched a little slower than most products, just to test the waters, to feel things out. And we have discovered how important it is to be networking with people who are one step ahead of us and get their input and get their feedback. And it's been an incredible journey. It's in some places it's been great, in some places it's been really yucky. But all in all, it's been really good in that it allows us to, like I said, course correct. Nothing's worse than having a great product, but marketing it wrong, and even pricing is part of the marketing. And all of a sudden, the product dies, even though it's a great product, just because nobody was willing to be genuine enough to come forth and say, hey, it's a little expensive, or you're not selling it right, or there's something there.
Well, I think it's an important thing here that you say that you're doing a course correction, because I think that there's a lot of great ideas, a lot of great products that are out there, and I think that people lose heart if things don't go exactly how they first thought, how they envisioned it. So I think that you're taking the right approach. I think that's a good lesson right off the bat here for people to take away, is just because it's not perfect out of the gate doesn't mean that you don't have a good product or a good service. You have to fine tune.
Exactly.
Find that sweet spot.
Very true. Very true. Yeah. Then that's what we're finding. And the networking has been one of the most important facets of this whole process we've found. So let's look at networking. What we want to do is we want to dissect the whole idea of networking and how it can be important to your small business, how you can use it in a real way, in a genuine way, to have impact within your business and outside of your business. So first and foremost, Nancy, wouldn't you agree this is the one thing we know we need to do, and it's the one thing we normally don't do, is network?
I think that's absolutely true. And I think part of that goes back to what we spoke about as well, with me resisting putting the time and the effort into working on my own business instead of in my business. Even though that's what I would preach to my clients, I think that the networking thing is the same idea. You always think that you don't have time or you'll get to it later. But really, it's a very, very critical component of your moving your business forward and your business success.
Exactly. And I can hear it right now. All the listeners are screaming, but I can't do it. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I haven't got the time. I don't know about you, Nancy, but I've discovered that if I've just said, okay, this is important to me, I make the time. And even though I got a busy schedule and I got a lot of clients, what happens is we get lost in the minutia of the day-to-day we're busy. We could be making a lot of money, but we could be leaving gobs on the table. Like, I mean, tons of money on the table. And it's not all about money. It's the opportunity and the ability to grow and to change. I'm sure there's not one person in the whole wide world that wants to keep doing the same thing over and over again for the next 35 or 40 years. Especially entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs get bored within about 5 minutes of any one idea.
That's right. That's right. No, I think that's absolutely true. And I know that not everybody works best with a systematic approach, but I truly, truly believe that everybody, even your ADHD people, need and can benefit from something as simple as putting aside 1 hour a day every day. You know, there's obviously going to be the odd time that you just can't make that happen. But once you put that time away for things such as networking and you get used to it, you create a habit. I think they say it takes 7 times to do something for it to successfully become a habit. Once you have that habit created, you start to miss doing it if you don't do it.
Yeah, I believe that's correct as well. One thing that and one thing that I would always advocate too is make the most of your networking time. If sometimes you're going to be speaking to somebody one-on-one, if you are, and the conversation is at a comfort level for both of you that you can record it, then record it. You never
Right.
know the gems that will come out of that. You know, one thing that we're doing right now with a lot of the affiliates and joint venture partners we're working with is we're talking with them and saying, how can we do this better? And we are recording the session so we can go back, my partner and I go back and review it and look at it and dissect all the pieces. But I always say, try to make sure your networking counts. I know when you did your talk, one of the things I had said to you is, Nancy, make sure they have a video recorder running and you can record that session and keep a hard copy of it because, you know, you had 25, 30 people in the room and it was good and you had great contacts and I'm sure you're going to get business from that. And it was good for you in that it allows you to, again, solidify yourself as a market leader in that particular area of marketing. But also, you can do that again and again and again as long as you have a physical recording.
Well, not only do they do the physical recording in this particular instance, but they also do these seminars in person and online. So those are all recorded as well.
Very good. That's excellent.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's always good to be networking. And it's like we mentioned right at the beginning, it's the one thing we always seem not to do. We're always busy, again, with the minutiae of our business. But, you know, sometimes we get stuck, though, too, in that, okay, how can I network? How can I start networking today? I haven't really got anything on the docket. I'm really not sure what I should be doing. I might not be computer savvy. There's a lot of reasons. And one of the things I know, I was talking to a contractor and I said to him, shame on you. You've got this wonderful Android phone that's got a really nice camera built right into it. Now, it's not going to be the best pictures or the best video, but it's better than nothing. And I say to him, when you go into a house and you're surveying, it's actually in your best interest to survey and record it. Oh, no, yeah, look at this. We'll fix this damage. We'll do this. And then you come back and you show the afters. Whenever you watch a show on TV, the proof is in the pudding. The proof is they see the before and the after, and you go, oh, wow. Like, because even when we watch a 30-minute show and they've done 3 months worth of work on, let's say, renovation, we can see some of the details have changed. But when they go back and forth, you kind of go, wow, I see all the details, and it's very apparent. So even something like that. And what's happened is you are performing a function of networking without networking, without having to actually set aside that time. Maybe you're talking to a customer like Nancy, you're in marketing and that. Maybe you have a customer who's comfortable enough to talk about why they're resistant to doing podcasting. Mm-hmm. Or mail orders, like, you know, mail card listing, postcard listing, the things you've done in the past with customers. And to sit down and say, hey, you know, Bob, I'd really like to sit down and record this because I'll edit anything out that's very personal to your business and that. But I really like to get your feedback on why you don't like doing X, Y, Z. Mm-hmm. Now, it's getting out there, but you never know. As you know, I've mentioned many times, we'll talk before and after the show. And I'm like, darn it, I wish we were recording. That was better than the show.
That's right. That's right. Well, and I think it might be fair to say as well, and I can speak personally for this. I think sometimes we get hung up on the lingo.
Mm,
When somebody says, you have to go networking, it sounds like get your briefcase and go off and you have to go and do a job. When really, let's talk about what networking really is. It's meeting people,
right.
and we do that every day.
Right. And one thing that you had mentioned as we were compiling the show notes is to be genuine. And that means
Yeah.
truly being genuine. One thing that I've always found to be really important in when it comes to selling to other people or telling them about your business or how you can help them is just that. Become a problem solver. How are you going to
Yeah.
help them? Or how can they help you? And become a problem solver instead of a pushy salesperson. Nothing's
Yeah.
worse.
Think about how you like to be approached. Do you like to have somebody cramming their product or service down your throat, or do you like them to be more personable and reach out to you, and as you say, be a problem solver?
Right. And a lot of times, too, I found that not everybody's your customer. We'd love it if everybody was our customer. And
That's true.
sometimes we approach networking like everybody's our customer. I remember a few years ago, I went to, with the Chamber of Commerce here in the town I live in, went to a meet and greet. And it was like it's almost like speed dating for companies.
Yeah. It's
And
exactly.
it was interesting, but in my opinion, hold on, let me think here for a second. In my opinion, it had the right gist, but everybody took it the wrong way. The one
Mhm.
thing they said was use this time to perfect your elevator speech. In your elevator speech, for anybody who doesn't know, is tell people what you do in literally 1 or 2 sentences. You have 10 seconds or 15 seconds to give people the gist of how you solve a particular problem. And turned into a big pitch fest,
Right.
and it was good, and I met a lot of people, but did I really network? Did I really anything ever come out of it? No, nothing did. Would I go back to that with a different point of view? Absolutely. I would go back with the point of view of listening to people, and that's one thing that's important too. Networking sometimes is more listening than it is talking. Letting them talk to you, and when they're talking to you, they're going to tell you about their business, they're going to tell you about their personal life, they're going to tell you about all different things, and you're going to be able to pick out where you should be speaking back to them. Like you would talk to me, Nancy, and say, yeah, it's doing this and this and this, and oh, I'm really struggling here. Let's say your business is struggling and your clients are not coming in the door. I just finding a hard time to get prospect, and well, Nance, maybe we could work together and I could help you and show you how to do online prospecting.
Well, and that's a critical component of networking as well. Is networking is multifaceted. It's not simply about finding customers, but it also is an opportunity to create some strategic alliances with some businesses that can be complementary, or you can create a synergy between the two of you.
hmm I found that when I've been networking with people, I remember there was one call that came to my mind. I'm working with this graphic artist. I've been working with him for about 4 years now. And he gave me a holler one day. He said, I'm working with this company, and they're having a really hard time organizing their videos. This company has a lot of videos, and their core products are DVD and online video sales. And they're having a really, really hard time organizing things because they have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of instructional videos. Maybe you can give them a call and see if you can help them out. Maybe you can get some business out of that. So I said, sure. So what I did was I actually phoned one of the contractors to this person who was struggling with this. And I said, hey, my name is Frank Thomas. And I told him how I knew of him. I
Hmm.
said I talked to, a common friend, this graphic artist, and he was mentioning you were having some video problems. Now, I did not try to sell him at all. I said to him, how can I help you? Is there any hints I can give you? Because I've worked with lots of video. Maybe I can make some of the pain go away. And this guy was like, oh, yeah, that would be awesome. And I talked to him for about 90 minutes on the phone. I didn't say to him, oh, by the way, boss, I'm charging you $200 an hour for this. I said, no, I just want to help you. You know, and I wasn't trying to look for, no, let me correct myself. Yes, I was trying to look for business, but I was trying to qualify whether or not he was the right business to be canvassing. And
Right.
normally they'll tell you after about 60 minutes or so, he came forth and said, you really seem to know what you're talking about. And I'd really like to put these things into action because I can really see the benefit of this. Now, I had not tried to sell Nancy to this person once. I just was I was literally pouring my soul out. Yeah, you want to do this and you can do this. And one thing I found is this works really good, but this doesn't. Don't do this because he was going to go down one venue. And I said, you don't want to do that. And then here's the long-term effect, especially for how much video you have. Wow, you probably saved me hundreds of hours of frustration and work. I said, hey, glad to help you. Not once did I talk money to him. And then he came to me and said, you really seem to know what you're talking about. Now, yes, that he was pre-qualified for me. He had a problem that I could solve, and I knew it. But never once did I try to sell to him.
Well, that reflects back to our conversation we had in our previous episode about giving, and then you get back.
That's very true. And the conversation eventually turned into how could I actually help him and for how much. And
Right.
we went back and forth, and we came to an agreement. And, sure, I spent 90 minutes on the phone with one person, and I didn't record it. I didn't do anything else. It was a very personal call between that company and my company. He alluded to lots of personal things within the business. But first of all, he walked away with value.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, man, I'm glad I talked to Frank. And I gave him time to talk. I gave him lots of time to tell me what's going on and how things happening. And in the end, I could actually zero right in. I could target, like literally taking a bow and an arrow and shooting right to the target to what he needed. And
Well, and you make a good point there about letting him talk and about listening and the art of listening. There's a reason why they always say there's a reason why we have one mouth and two ears. And I'll just reflect back, if I may, for just a minute, back a couple decades ago when I was involved in federal politics. And I had a couple of friends who were journalists, and I was working with a newly elected member of parliament, and they were doing some media training with her. And they did every trick that the journalist does. And people will talk. People like to talk. And one of the tricks that the journalists will do is they'll ask you a question, and when you answer it, they'll just nod their head and be quiet. Because most people are uncomfortable with that silence, and they will continue to fill that void. And sometimes in political cases, they end up saying things that they don't mean. But I think when you're networking and you're trying to help a potential client or just trying to help somebody just because you want to help them, it is very important just to let them talk, because they might actually talk about things that they didn't even realize were problems until that particular venue offered itself where you were able to listen to what they had to say.
how true is that? I know that the conversation, it's interesting because I was definitely leading the conversation, and I found that whenever I've had a really good, successful lead call, I've led the conversation, but I've done very little talking.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. They would be pointing in a direction, and I would say, well, how did that go for you? How did that work for you? I would try to make my questions not yes or no answers, but I want to hear what they have to say. How did you find when you did your video on this platform? Oh, gee, it was just terrible, and what I hated, and they would spill the whole story out to me, and I knew the story already. I've heard it, I've experienced it, but I let them tell me the story, and I would say to them, you know something? You did nothing wrong. And sometimes I'll actually say to them and just build their confidence in it.
Yes.
It's not that you suck. It's just that you did nothing wrong. This is just not the right platform for what you're trying to do.
Yes.
And that's where the mistake is. But let me show you where you can do this.
That's right. Provide solutions.
Right. In the end, too, actually, it's kind of funny because video on the web is actually a tricky solution, because there is a lot of really expensive solutions that are very good and a lot of cheap solutions that are really crappy and nothing in between. I've been saying forever to a few of my partners, if I just had the capital to build the platform, the in-between, we can make a lot of money. Believe it or not, YouTube is one of those in-betweens that is just brilliant. And they're bringing out a new service called YouTube Red, and I'm thrilled by it because it's now a subscription-based tool where you're paying $10 a month, I think it is, and it's ad-free, and it gives you lots of little things. I'm dying to see how this spins out, because it'll be a nice in-between an inexpensive thing for customers to have, but it's also a very genuine and well-working platform.
Right.
Little plug for YouTube there, but anyhow. Now, Nancy, we were talking about the whys. Why would we network? It seems to be self-explanatory, but I love what you said in the pre-show. You were saying expand your circle of influence. Can you dive a little deeper in how you believe that is so?
Well, I actually addressed this in my presentation that I gave last week. I was asked to speak about 5 things that you can do right now to help get clients in lean times. And one of the first thing I talked about, of course, is branding. That goes without saying. But the second most critical factor, anytime, but especially in lean times, is networking. And as I pointed out in my talk that day, there's varying opinions on this, but typically they say that every person has a circle of influence of approximately 52 people. So if you have 52 people in your circle of influence, and I have 52 people in my circle of influence, by networking with you, that opens the door to your 52 people. And if you approach every one of your 52 people, some of them aren't going to be able to help you. Some of them will be able to help you. Even if you just get one introduction from each of those 52 people, that's an additional 52 people that you've just added to your circle of influence.
Right. And there's a type of a person that I call a connector. And connectors are extremely important people to get into your scope of influence.
Absolutely.
Connectors seem to have the scope of influence of not 52 people, but about 552 people.
Yeah, or 5,000.
Or 5,000. I don't know how they do it, but that's why they're called connectors. They just have this ability to attract many, many people around them, whether they're successful or not. It's almost like magic. And actually, no, it's not. And a lot of the time, I'm very fortunate right now. I have 3 people in my life that are connectors. My stepfather, a friend locally that you know, and a third person whom I know in Russia. And all 3 of them are connectors, and they all exhibit the same
traits.
Traits. Thank you so much. They all exhibit the same traits. And one of them is they touch everybody all the time. Hey, how you doing? Hey. And sometimes they'll touch, like my stepfather he loves, a connector loves Facebook. There's the only men who love Facebook are connectors, I'm sure of it. And he loves Facebook, man. He loves Twitter. He loves email. And he's in his 70s, and he just loves these elements, and because it allows him to, and as my children say, he retweets everything, or he reposts everything that everybody else posts on Facebook. But that's what a connector does.
Right.
Is he will see something he thinks is cool, and he'll get to the top of the hill and go, "Everybody listen, you have to hear." And, and because he feels that he needs to do that. And that's what makes a good connector a good connector. And that's how they
make it look so effortless, most of them.
Absolutely. There's no fear. They just it's not that I get up on stage and talk to people, but they do. And as well, a good connector will also step down to the one-on-one and touch people on a one-to-one basis. They'll phone up, "Hey, Nancy, how you doing today? I saw the coolest thing I think you would like." And that's what makes them a connector. They will actually be the conduit between point A and point C. They're the point B in between.
Yeah.
And they are listening all the time. They are looking all the time. They've got this computer in their mind going, they're categorizing. Oh, I need to talk to Nancy about that. Oh, I need to talk to Frank about that. I need to talk to Bob about that. Yeah. And they do. And that's the magic. They do. And this connector's brought me, all 3 of them have brought me business. My stepfather, not so much, but he's great because he's so far across the country, and he's my touch to the family. And I've felt always connected to my family because of him. Sure, I'm looking at the family through his rose-colored glasses, but at least I have a view.
Yes.
So it's really good to have those connectors, and it's really good to look at the traits of a connector and to pass that along. And I actually believe that we all can become connectors if we take those traits. And I'm just kind of jumping on a limb here, by the way. So if you hear cracking and I hear crash, I've just crash
Well,
and
I was
burn.
going to say I'm not so sure that I agree with that, because I think all of us have the capability to connect, but I don't know,
I don't think it would be.
based on your definition of connector,
Uh,
I don't think that I am that person. I can connect people, but I don't think that I would be classified as a connector in the true sense of how you just described them.
no, not neither would I. But I think we could get closer to being a connector. That's probably a better way to say it.
Yes.
By always keeping an importance and keeping a list. Because, let's face it, I'm sure, Nancy, you see things. Actually, I'll take that back. In some ways, Nancy, you are a connector because you will see something and you'll say, Frank, take a look at this.
Well, maybe part of it is there's different levels of connectors then.
Mm. And then
Maybe
I
maybe
would go
that's
for.
the better way to look at it, because yes, I do know that I connect people, and being a connector is truly just being open to knowing when introductions would make sense between people that you already know in your network. But to do things at the level of what you just described with your stepfather and things like that, I think that takes a
That takes a
talent that's beyond mine.
I think that's something that is an innate talent that comes to a person. But I believe that we all should strive to move a little closer to that,
Yes.
or have lots of great connectors in your group
Yeah.
and love on them. And that's the thing too. You got to love on your connectors. If you don't love on your connectors, it's not that they. It's almost like they enjoy that the reciprocating, speaking and talking. And I will go to my connector and say, "Hey, you should take a look at this," and I will usually get, for that one touch, I'll get back 10 touches. Oh yeah, that's great. Oh yeah, yeah. And
Right.
I found it to be, and it's not that it's not genuine. It really is genuine, and we actually build these friendships from that, and it's really interesting. And I will go out of my way if a connector becomes dissatisfied, because I find it's like the one connector that I have. He's a funny type of person, and that he becomes unhappy easily, in terms of he's not sure about your relationship, and you just have to reach out and say, "Hey, how you doing, Bob? It's haven't had a chance to talk to you for 2 weeks. I'm sorry, but I want you to know I'm always thinking about you." And then it's everything's forgiven and everything's good. So I really do try to keep those connector relationships genuine and open all the time.
Well, I think you made a good point there, and not just for the connectors in your network, but for your network and for networking in general.
Right.
Is that it's not just about what you can give or what's in it for you in a reciprocal fashion, but you also can end up making some true, genuine, long-lasting friendships
Mm-hmm.
through your networking.
Very true. Very true. I think too. One thing that I've discovered as well is a way to do good business is networking as well. Let's say let's say, Nancy, you've captured a client, Bob Smith of XYZ Blue Widgets, and you're doing work for him in that. One of the things you'll want to do is to continue to network with him or his people, so they always feel that they're in touch with you. It's when you run away and try to do a whole bunch of work, they're kind of going, "What is Nancy doing? Is
Yep.
she really worth it? Or did she just take the money and run? Or what's going on?" And I
Mm-hmm.
found that I will try very hard at least once a week to reach out to my people and say, "Hey, I just want you to know things are going well."
Mm-hmm.
Or, "Hey, I need some information in this area." Or, "Hey, here's some information for you. Here's some results for you." And it just takes that once a week or once every 2 weeks touch. I find once a month is just not enough. Once a week, once every 2 weeks, it just seems to be the right amount to re-establish you in their minds. And again, it's another form of networking, because you still have to network to the customers you already have. Because what's easier, Nancy, to get? A customer that you don't know or a customer that you do know?
Oh, there's already so many stats out there about how many touches and how much money it costs to get a new client versus maintaining and retaining a current client.
Absolutely. And I found that over and over again.
And
Sometimes.
Frank, it's interesting because I know that we had spoken earlier and about my direction for my blog post that I want to do tomorrow. About I think I'm going to title it electronic fatigue or something, social fatigue, something like that, because how it came to mind, what I want to talk about is people do get stuck on one certain way of doing things. And you know, when you said something about just take the money and run, the unfortunate thing is that's the wrong thing to do. And that's what so many people do. Not everybody, of course, but so many people do that. They find the client, they make their money, and then they're on to the next client. And they're looking at building a big client base, which is fine. But if you don't service properly and make the others understand that they're important, you've got a one-off. And then you're always chasing those new clients. You end up with dissatisfied clients, and you end up with people who are not going to recommend you.
That's a whole topic on its own, but I like to touch that anyhow a little bit here. In that you're right, you always have to look at your client list and requalify all your clients. Sometimes you have a client that you shouldn't have. I know I read the Timothy Ferriss book, The 4-Hour Work Week, and he talks extensively about the 80-20 rule. And he actually says, I'll even say this is a little more pointy, it's more like the 90-10 rule. Mm-hmm. But what he says is 80% of your business will come from 20% of your clients. But 80% of your problems comes from 20% of your clients as well. Or yeah. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. And so you need to you need to find out who your high-value clients are and service them as well as you can. And maybe you drop some of your low-value clients. And
identify what you want for your business. Do you want
right.
to be that? Do you want to be that prolific social marketer that's out there every day of the week getting somebody new that you're going to do a social media campaign? Or do you want to create and retain a relationship with each of your clients, understanding their corporate culture and moving forward with them?
Yeah, isn't that so true? I know in my business right now is going through that transformation. One of the things that I've been doing is I've been doing fee-for-services for a very long time, and it has some real advantages to it, but it has some really big disadvantages. What happens is you all of a sudden start working more and more for a client, and that client becomes a higher risk client for you because if something goes wrong in their business, you could lose a tremendous amount of income overnight. It's like being employed to somebody. I always say to people, and forgive me if you're employed and you're working for somebody else when I say this, but you hold the most risk. You really do. When you work for somebody else, you have one customer, your employer. And on Monday morning, your employer could look at you and go, Bob, you're fired. Mm-hmm. Your income stream has gone from 100% to 0% instantaneously. And I've even discovered as an entrepreneur, we're guilty of that as well. We get a couple, 2 or 3 high-value clients, and we're doing tremendous amounts of business with them. And you'll find there's always one client that really kind of edges in and takes over about 80% of your business. And it's great, but it's really
until
bad.
It doesn't. Yeah.
Until it doesn't. And all of a sudden, you're 3 or 4 months delinquent on payments, and something's gone wrong in your business. And it happens. This happens. And you are going to end up writing off a whole bunch of time. And it really hurts your business.
Which brings us back to the whole idea of networking, which is why, first of all, not only is it important to have, to always be looking to increase your circle of influence, but also to continue to reach and build those connections with your network. Because if you do end up in a circumstance where you lose your job or where you have had a couple of mainstream clients and they've gone broke or retired or changed, whatever, you can always reach out to your network and say, hey, do you know anybody I can help?
And I have to say, it's actually quite interesting moving from that services-based business to more of a product-based business. It's very interesting because it is a huge paradigm shift in thinking and how you think. No one client is going to be 80% of your business, but you're going to have hundreds, if not thousands of clients. What happens is, and it's a very interesting thing that I never even thought about. We've had, definitely doubled or tripled our customer base already with our products. And what's happening now is people will contact us and say, you know what would be a really good idea? And they tell us this idea, and we would go, that's a brilliant idea. And sometimes we might institute it into the product that we've already sold them. Or sometimes we go, this is a great idea that should be a product of its own. We went from having a product on the docket to having probably 10 products in the back room now.
Well, that's what I was going to say is that that's an important element to keep in mind as well if you are building a product-based company as well. Because if you have one product that plays trumpets and shoots fireworks and everything. That's great until you have the piggyback version that comes out for $10 cheaper than yours or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
you can't ever rest on your laurels with just the one product either. You always have to be making improvements, adding products to your list, things like that, so that you're not left in the dust.
Very true. Very true.
But as you say as well, I mean, you're through your networking with building your product out, you now are building a solid client base that you can approach for other products and services down the road.
And that's one thing I find that internet marketers are infamous for, but also infamous to hurt that relationship. They will push product after product, and it becomes disingenuous. It becomes fake. It's just all about opening up your wallet and giving them money. And I want to build a business where, sure, you bought a product from me, but now I want to email you and say, hey, I want to show you something really cool. You know, I'm not selling you anything. Come to this webinar, and I'm going to show you something really neat. This is really cool. And because there's lots of great ideas that come out. And we've actually found that selling a product is great, but you start building a relationship when you start talking to people and showing them. And Nancy, I'll be perfectly honest with you. These ideas are not all my own. It's other people coming and saying, hey, have you ever tried this? And I'd say, hey, can I share that with, my scope of influence with our other customers, because I think this is a really smart idea. Sometimes they say yes, or no, but most of the time they say yes, absolutely. Because, and I'm glad to say, hey, Veronica, who's one of our customers with our Livestream Genius, has given us this really good idea for video marketing, and I really want to share it with you guys because it's a brilliant idea. And I'll actually sometimes let her share her idea, let her become the person of center of attention on that, because no matter how you slice it or dice it, at the end of the day, people are going to go, wow, I need to make sure I check out Frank's stuff because of the fact that he's the guy who brings in these smart people, and I'm learning so much. And again, you're becoming a problem solver. You're not being a pushy salesperson, but you're becoming a problem solver. Yes, sometimes an idea will require a secondary purchase. Absolutely. Sometimes it happens. I can't help it. But sometimes it doesn't, and that's fine too.
Well, and I think that you make a very valuable point there as well about giving value with your product and segmenting. And the unfortunate thing is about these internet marketers is they do get a bad reputation. I've bought a couple of really valuable products online, and the unfortunate thing is because I bought these couple of products, I am inundated every day.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many emails I get that the subject line says, 24 hours, buy all this stuff for $7. They're going to draw you in. I don't want 812 products. I want products that are valuable to me and my business that I can use for my clientele that are going to stand the test of time. I don't need everything. And the unfortunate thing is they don't allow me to opt out of their email list, because if I opt out of their email list, I won't get updates or notices if there are any issues with the good products that I have purchased.
Mm-hmm. Just keep track and see how many updates you actually get about your products from that person.
Well, and actually I have had, in both cases, I have had some that were pretty valuable, pretty important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's segregating the good from the bad. I'm of a firm belief. I've ran other people's lists over the last few years, and I found the most successful lists have about a 1/4 sales ratio to a 3/4 give ratio in terms of teaching or offering, or there's no hooks attached. It's when you start getting deeper into the sales, you can make a heck of a lot of money. I'm not going to lie. You can be salesy, and you make a huge amount of money very fast. But it's one of those, you burn the bridge that is carrying you across the river.
Yeah, you have to be very, very careful about that.
But Nancy, we've had a great show. We're kind of approaching the 40-minute mark here.
Oh, we are.
Can you tell me...
Time flies, huh?
Yeah, you bet. This is a great topic. Can you tell us a little bit more about your website and what you offer on your website if people decide to come on over?
Absolutely. They can visit my website at agapimarketing.com, AGAPI marketing.com. You can find all of my latest articles and posts on there where I give away lots of tips and techniques on marketing your business. And you can also find out a little bit more about me and my business and what our services and product offerings are.
Excellent. And I suggest you do check that out. Secondarily, make sure you come on over to the Small Business Tips Show. That's smallbusinesstipsshow.com. And be sure to sign up to the list. We don't spam the list. We do just send out interesting information. And because the gift is turning your passions into... I got to get the title correct. As soon as I wanted to say it, it just popped out of my head. Making your passions your purpose. It's very important to take the time to figure out what your passion is and make it your purpose in your business, in your life, in everything in general, that you're going to be living much less than what you should be.
And it's a great article.
Excellent. So make sure you stay tuned next week. Join us. And we thank you very much for coming by. Nancy, thank you so much for your input this week.
Thank you, Frank. Thanks to all of our listeners and our viewers. We'll see you next time.
You bet. And have a good week, everybody.